We're now moving into our conversation around the National Infrastructure Fund. That's what we're going to be breaking down over the next hour.
Yep.
We're joined in studio by Molo MP and, of course, Chair of the Finance Committee, Karibu sana Kuria Kimani.
Asanteni sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama sana.
Sawa.
Tuko na ubuheri wa afya. Unajua sasa siku hizi sisi tuko na mmiliki mpya kutoka Tanzania, kwa hivyo tuzungumza Kiswahili hapa.
Umeuzwa.
Tumenunuliwa. It's better.
Yeah. Sounds better. Tumenunuliwa.
Nimeambiwa mshalipo kila kitu kwa karatasi sasa. But good morning Kenyans and everyone who is watching us this morning. We are going to delve into the conversation about National Infrastructure Fund. And it's interesting tunaongea kuhusu fines za NTSA. Now, mojawapo ya swali ambao umejaribu kueleza about the difference in terms of the speed limits.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that the National Infrastructure Fund is going to do. Because how we structured this law, this is what the fund is going to build our expressways, our highways, and the speed limit will vary according to the kind of road being used. And you know, we're looking forward to where you can even speed up to 150 kilometers an hour because the road will be too wide and straight and it's going to accommodate everyone. And so this issue of what speed you use at what part of the road depends on how the number of users on the road, how narrow the road is, and all of these things are being taken care of by the National Infrastructure Fund. The National Infrastructure Fund. But interestingly, I had a discussion with one of my friends last evening. Na kuna kizungumkuti hapa kwa hii ya fine kwa sababu think about motor vehicles and motorcycles that are financed by credit.
Yes.
So I probably have a loan with Mogo or Watu, and so the logbook is registered in Watu or Mogo's name on the bank's name. So who pays the fine? Is it the bank? Is it me? So one of the conversations that we look forward to having with NTSA is for asset financing. Maybe there are some fines that should be charged on the driving license of the driver rather than the logbook of the vehicle owner.
How do you know the driver?
Yeah. Because it captures the number plate.
Yes, there could be improvement on not just capturing the number plate, but also capturing the driver.
The face of the driver.
The face of the driver. Think about, assuming I have a fleet of 10 matatus.
Yeah.
So I have 10 drivers who drive my 10 matatus. So that would mean that for every mistake that they make on the road, I am the one to pay.
Yes.
If I try to surcharge my driver, and I tell him at the end of the month, you know, I've paid fines for you for 10K.
Yeah.
The guy is just going to run away and go to...
Let them run away.
To Latif.
Listen, they are
but if he goes away...
you actually should fire them even before they run away.
That's okay.
For 10K, yeah, 10K.
But if I fire them, they're going to come and work for you and they're going to do the same.
Yep.
So I'm just saying that perhaps there are some fines that could be structured in a way that it charges the driver, especially for careless driving.
Okay.
So even if that driver stops working for me and comes to work for Nation Media Group, then it reflects on their driving license that they have these outstanding fines.
So I agree with that. Actually, we ran out of time with Nahashon, but it was one of the things that I wanted to know. Are these fines in any way linked to now the points on your driving license, and not for, again, small infractions, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers per hour above a speed limit, but things like you said, like careless driving.
If you're driving on a pavement, for example.
Yeah, it's something to look into. But let's get into matters National Infrastructure Fund. Before that, though, let me share the quote of the day with you. Yes. So usually Janet will be here to share a quote with us. I will do so in her stead, and I'll try to do the best job I can. It's a quote by Winston Churchill, of course, former UK Prime Minister, during very tough times. A very simple quote that said, "The price of greatness is responsibility." The price of greatness is responsibility. Yeah, does that speak to you?
Yes, and it's this responsibility that when this matter came before the Committee of Finance and National Planning, we did public participation across 30 counties in the country. And I think I shared with you, Latif, the vellum for the law, and if I didn't, remind me to share it with you.
Yes.
what the National Infrastructure Bill and the National Infrastructure Law are so different because we made so many changes. One of the things that we agreed on is that, you see, that responsibility you're talking about has to be provided for in law. One of the things that we did, for example, is that in the National Infrastructure Fund, it's going to be managed by a board of directors. And we're very keen to observe that for a very long time, appointments into government entities have been politically driven.
Yeah.
It's because I ran for office and didn't win elections, and therefore, and I was a UDA supporter, and I became the chairperson of the board. So one of the things that's insisted is that this National Infrastructure Fund board will be void of any politicians. And I'm a bit conflicted there, because it doesn't mean that when you become a politician, you cease being a professional or become stupid. No. However, there are some exposures that we exposed to as politicians that now, if you and I go downstairs and we meet people there, someone will tell me, I'm from your constituency, I need a job. Nobody will tell you that they need a job. Someone will tell you, I have someone sick at hospital, I need this, I need this favor or the other. So politicians have a tendency to give favors. And sometimes we stretch the limit. That's why most of these institutions have very huge wage bill, because you want to please your constituents, you want to please people from your community.
You're cultivating your next vote.
You're cultivating your next vote, exactly. So we've made sure that the board is devoid of any politician. It's okay if you're a politician, but kaa nje miaka 5 tukufanye formatting kidogo, urudi kama raia, so that now we can accommodate you.
So it's someone who is essentially holding public office or has held public office.
Someone who has held public, especially political office, in the last 5 years. And if, for example, you have also headed a state-owned enterprise, you have been the CEO of, say, NTSA, for example, you cannot now go immediately and become
Board of Infrastructure Fund.
In the Board of National Infrastructure Fund. In addition to that, we have also created a governing council as now the oversight body on the National Infrastructure Fund board, where we're saying we're going to have the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, we're going to have Central Bank Governor, we're going to have the Attorney General, and we're also going to have 4 other independent members appointed by the president, but on merit. And these people, both on the board of the board of National Infrastructure Fund and the Governing Council, they're the ones that are the independent directors appoint the chairperson, so that now those people that are competently competitively recruited now get to appoint the chairperson. In addition, we've also provided that all these funds that are going to be put in the National Infrastructure Fund will have the oversight of the Auditor General. You know, I had someone say yesterday on social media, I think in some studio, that this fund will not be oversighted. We actually expressly put that this fund must be oversighted by the Auditor General. But how does this help in our infrastructure projects?
Audited by the Auditor General.
It must be audited by the Auditor General.
Will expenditures from this fund be controlled by the Controller of Budget?
The difference is because these funds are not going to the consolidated fund, because they're going out to a fund constructed through an act of parliament. So funds...
It's a special fund.
Special funds do not have the oversight of the Controller of Budget, but they have express audit by the Auditor General. Office of the Auditor General. In addition to that,
brings a report to Parliament, so Parliament is oversight.
Yes, so there's the Auditor General audits the fund. In terms of the audit committees of Parliament, they also audit the fund. And then most importantly, what you call in the investment policy. The investment policy is we agree that we need to build Geronimo Summit Road. So that needs to be in the investment plan. And that investment plan has to come to Parliament for approval. And for it now to be approved by a Parliament, not Parliament, a National Assembly actually, for it to be approved by National Assembly, it must also go through public participation. So this provides all safeguards that we need. But
let me go back to the Control of Budget bit just slightly. Is it possible to, in this National Infrastructure Act now, to have put a provision to put it in the purview of the Controller of Budget?
Technically, no. Because if you check the responsibilities of the control of budget, for you to put this fund under the purview or approval of control of budget, then you need to amend the constitution. Because the constitution says that the control of budget approves all withdrawals from the consolidated fund.
Okay.
And if you take this money to the consolidated fund, you stand one huge risk.
It will pay salaries.
Italipa mishahara, italipa maloans, italipa mandazi, italipa chai. So for you to protect this fund from expenditures into recurrent expenditures, and for that fund to be used for expressly what's provided for in the law, then we had now to take it out of the consolidated fund. But the draft bill that came to Parliament, the fund was going to the consolidated fund. Then we asked the CS, so how sure then are we that this money would be spent on these commercially viable projects, as you were saying?
Yeah.
And that's what necessitated us now to come up with the National Infrastructure Bill, and now to amend the bill to now how it is, to make sure that it's going to be expressly provided for to build seaports, airports, highways, irrigation projects, but most importantly, they must all be commercially viable projects.
Let's take a break, just a slight one.
So,
Then we come back and start interrogating some of these issues. Kuria Kimani, the chair of the Finance, it's called the Finance
and
National Planning Committee of the National Assembly, is our guest. We're talking about this newly formed infrastructure fund, not yet formed, but newly passed into law, the National Infrastructure Fund, which we need to understand before we start saying ati pesa ya Safaricom inaingia hapo, IPO ya pipeline imeenda hapo, sijui tunauza nini imeenda hapo. Then they start telling us even you put money so that we can build sijui which airport from our airstrips. We'll be back shortly. Back in conversation with Honorable Kuria Kimani, the MP for Molo and chair of the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly, the National Infrastructure Fund Act now. And you're looking at how Parliament processed it. Now it's a law, and we are set to establish this thing. Are there timelines for the establishment of the fund itself, of the National Infrastructure Fund? I think I saw some bit of information on social media where the president was saying he's going to appoint the directors of the governing council. And you mentioned that he's going to have a governing council and a board of directors. And I'm confused that, so who's above whom? I mean,
between the board and the governing council. That's a good question.
Who reports to the other? Because I can imagine after this, then is going to be now the executive, the management of the. So who's above the other?
First of all, we need to understand what are the functions of the fund, and I want to. I've shared that with you, Latif.
Yes, yes, we have it.
And as we go through it, I just saw your WhatsApp status of Chuck Norris. You know, at 86 years of age, we have a long way to go.
Chuck Norris is 86.
No, 86 is Chuck Norris.
86 is Chuck Norris. You're right. You're right.
And he looks really fit. We have a lot of work to do. So one of the functions, the major function of this fund is the catalytic fund. And what the fund is looking forward to is how can we take private investors and involve them in our infrastructure development. We saw this week some investor from Tanzania buying off NTV or NMG, National Media Group. And because National Media Group is a commercially viable project, you'd wonder, why is it not happening with KBC, for example? Because that's a government entity. So what this fund is going to do is, we want, for example, to establish an airport. They have estimated that the cost of building a new airport, and off air, we had, someone was calling it Jomo Kenyatta Airstrip.
Someone.
I don't think it's Jomo Kenyatta Airstrip, but fine.
That's what it is anyway.
We need around 200 billion shillings to build an airport. But then, do we have to take that from our budget? Do we have to take that from our exchequer? And mark you, our development budget for this financial year is give and take 600 billion shillings. So if you take 200 billion shillings for one project from our development expenditure, it's impossible. Number two, our fiscal space is so limited because we have actually overpassed our debt to GDP ratio. So we must think about, if we need to develop a new airport, how do we finance this without increasing taxes and without increasing our national debt? And what you're saying is, let's say, for example, we do equity financing. we say let's take 10% of the costs. That's 20 billion shillings. So out of and we dove into this later, the partial divestment of Safaricom and the KPC IPO. So we invest 20 billion shillings onto the new JK airport. So we have a deficit of 180 billion shillings. So we call in on investors and say, guys, you have this project that's commercially viable, that can guarantee a return on an ROI, a return on investment of say 18%, whatever percentage that we give it, and say come buy equity. So National Media Group comes and says we're willing to invest 50 billion shillings on this investment for 30% equity. So we say fine, for 30% equity you get you give us 50 billion. Then Standard Chartered Bank comes and says now we're willing now, based on how this looks, we're willing to loan you 150 billion shillings to do this payable at this particular interest rates. So what that does, it de-risks government of Kenya in terms of our sovereign debt. So the even if you build it on loan from say Standard Chartered Bank or ABSA or whoever gives the money, the money is owed to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, not to government of Kenya. And the fact that we already provided for seed capital for it, then we are going to have more investors willing to come and invest in that particular project. And so in the next maybe 10, 15 years, all the investors that have invested in the project recover their money, they get the return on investment, and now that property reverts back to government of Kenya. That is the architecture behind the National Infrastructure Fund. And what are going to be the sources of this investment? I have people say, so maybe are we going to raid people's pay slips again to fund this project? We have expressly provided for that the source of this particular investment shall be partial divestiture of government investments. For example, yesterday we had the second reading for the session number 3 of 2025 on the partial divestiture of Safaricom. We are going to raise approximately 242 billion shillings. We have expressly provided for in our report to the National Assembly that this money must go into the National Infrastructure Fund. The 106 billion shilling that was raised the other day on the IPO of KPC again goes to the National Infrastructure Fund. So by the end of
all of it.
In fact, you know what?
All the proceeds of the pipeline IPO go into the National Infrastructure Fund.
And not just that, if there will be any more privatization or divestiture of government investments in where government of Kenya has a stake, all that divestiture, all that privatization money must or shall go to the national
mandatory.
Because one of the mistakes that we made, and if you remember, a year ago we had a very huge strain on our foreign reserves. Because a loan that we took a few years ago, the Eurobond, was coming to maturity. So we need to raise around 270 billion shillings in dollars at once as a bullet payment for Eurobond. But if you ask Kenyans, if you ask National Treasury, fine, we are repaying back these 270 billion shillings that we borrowed. Tulijenga nayo nini? Ilienda wapi? You cannot point a single project that was done by the Eurobond. So we want to correct that and say, we want to see that, because what this sale, for example, this Safaricom shares, what this privatization of Kenya Pipeline means is that we are also denying the country ownership of this particular project. So we're denying ourselves future dividends. We're denying ourselves future profits from these institutions. We must make sure that we safeguard, we ring fence what did the funds do. And that's why we have expressly provided for that in law, that we must see hii pesa inaenda wapi. And that's why we are saying iende kujenga expressways, iende kujenga highways, iende kuongeza electrification projects in the country, iende kujenga seaports, iende to convert Jomo Kenyatta International Airstrip to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Among many other projects that must be commercially viable and must also contribute to the economy of this beautiful country of ours, the Republic of Kenya.
So it's infrastructure.
Yes.
Okay. Does this law define infrastructure?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
One of the things that we did, and this is one of the works that we really had to do in terms of the bill, because the draft the draft law did not provide for what infrastructure project means, and I'm trying to quickly get it. We have said the purpose of this fund, that is Section 4 of the Act, it is to scale up and accelerate development of national infrastructure and to mobilize capital and non-traditional sources of infrastructure finance, including domestic pensions and collective investment schemes, sovereign wealth funds, and climate finance. And C, to reduce the reliance on public debt for the financing of commercially viable infrastructure investments, and D, to strengthen the national capacity for irrigation, structuring, and the execution of large and complex infrastructure projects. So you find the word infrastructure being consistently used in the law.
Yeah.
So what we did in Section 2.
Let me read the interpretation. At the point of the interpretations, national infrastructure means national highways,
Yes,
railway
railway
networks,
airports, seaports,
electricity generation, transmission and distribution infrastructure,
information,
communication and communication, where ICT infrastructure, water reservoirs, and irrigation and agribusiness infrastructure.
Yes.
So this is the definition of infrastructure in this law.
Yes, and
we shall not add things here unless we amend the law and amend the interpretation.
In short, yes. For the use of these funds, they must be used as per Section 2 of the National Infrastructure Act, which you read very well. And to just belabor myself verbatim, national infrastructure means national highways. So this is not going to build a village road.
It will not do Kura roads or Kera roads.
No. This is not going to build my home village road. It's for national highways. It's for Rironi Summit Road, Nairobi Mombasa Highway, Nairobi Isiolo Highway. It's going to build national highways, railway networks, airports, seaports, electricity generation, transmission and distribution of infrastructure, information communication and communication infrastructure, water reservoirs and irrigation and agribusiness. So looking forward to Itare Dam, Gananakularu irrigation project, Thwake Dam, and all those other dams. But most importantly on ICT, the president went to one of the meetings in the US, I think 3 years ago, and he had a very good deal with Google and all these other ICT companies. They needed a place to host data centers. Because most of these international companies, the data centers are held at Silicon Valley and elsewhere, not in Kenya. And they said, now we have sufficient land. You go to Northeastern, you can get hectares and hectares of land. So you can develop all the data centers that you need. Wakasaini kwa karatas. Tukarudi home. Sasa reality. How much electricity do you need to power a proper data center?
How much water do you need?
Water, yes. Electricity. In fact, we need to switch off 30% of our electrification just to power one data center. So both are like, okay, sawa tumeti sawa. So we really need to up our game in terms of our electricity generation and water generation. Secondly, the president said sometime, hatuhitaji mvua ndio tukuze. We don't need rain.
We need water.
We need water
to do agriculture. And I saw TikTok videos of people making fun of it. and it really tells us how dumb sometimes we are, and you don't know it. For sure, we don't need water.
We don't need rain.
We don't need. So yes, we don't need rain. Thank you for the correction. We don't need rain to do agriculture. What we need is water. And how do we collect this water? The last 3 days tumekuwa na mvua kibao. Nairobi became Lemuru. Nairobi kulinyesha kuliko Molo.
So the message was to leave the dependence on rain-fed agriculture.
Yes.
And that it's us
to go into irrigation.
Because of time, I want to go into a few things, including some red flags from the Auditor General on this National Infrastructure Fund, and to see if now the Act has addressed these things or not. So the Auditor General, for example, highlighted Clause 5 of the Act.
The bill.
Of the bill, at the time, that saying it lacks clear alignment with Article 2 of 6 of the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act. She says that this omission may create loopholes in debt management and increase the risk of unsustainable public borrowing. Now, there was also the issue of the board having, so not just non-political actors, but needing people who have professional knowledge in project financing and infrastructure planning, not just the Treasury CS being the person there that has a knowledge of project financing and infrastructure planning. Have those things been addressed?
Yes, thank you very much. We did invite the Auditor General because, one of the things that we are trying to very hard as National Assembly and most importantly as Finance and National Planning Committee is to make public participation not an exercise in futility.
Yeah.
And one of the things that prominently came up, this was highlighted by Auditor General, it was highlighted by Control of Budget, and came also from public views across the 30 counties that we visited, because Clause 5 had an express clause that said the fund shall have powers to borrow. And now the question was, if it has powers to borrow, then how does that sit with our Constitution? How does it sit with the Public Finance Management Act? And what now our committee did was delete that particular clause. So to directly answer your question, that has been addressed because the fund now does not have ability to borrow as it was expressly provided for on the bill.
Okay.
And in terms of qualifications of the board,
yes.
and I'll take you to section 14 of the Act, that a person shall be eligible for appointment as a chairperson or a member of the board if the person is, one, you need a degree in finance, accounting, engineering, economics, law, or related field, and two, you must have at least 10 years experience in infrastructure development, infrastructure finance, project finance, public finance, economics, engineering, risk management, or a related field. So we've made sure that the people that are going to serve on this board are people that have experience in infrastructure financing, infrastructure development,
and project management.
But one of the balances that we also achieved, that we also did, the bill had, you need to have 15 years leadership experience. Hey, hapo kulikuwa na kizungumkuti.
15 years leadership experience.
Because of, the young people came and said, so you would ordinarily complete your degree at your first degree at say 23, usually 24 years.
Yeah.
Haya, ungangane miaka 5 kupiga haso ndio kwetu kwa middle level management. So you are
28.
around 28 there. So for you now to have 15 years of leadership experience, and for you, Makiu, to be in a leadership position at 28, wewe ni outlier.
Yeah.
So even if you got in the leadership position at 28, you had 15, that means you'll have to be 43 years of age for you to have even on the board. So we are made that to read that you have to have at least 10 years of professional experience. Because it's good to appreciate that there are young people out there.
Right.
They may not be 50, they may not be 40. There are many 30-year-olds, there are many 25-year-olds, there are many people that started their career and they have demonstrated that despite their young age, they experience, they have expertise, and they are go-getters. And it's very important to make sure these people are included in terms of running of our country.
We have a lot of questions on YouTube, but just before that, 2 more of the Auditor General's queries, just making sure they were addressed. There was the issue of the remuneration for directors being set by the Cabinet Secretary. Is that still the case, or is it now going to the Salaries and Remunerations Commission? That was one. The other thing was the board had powers to invest in projects through equity and debt and to dispose of assets. The Auditor General was noting that the bill does not clearly outline specific procedures to safeguarding like competitive bidding or public auctions as required under the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. So those 2 issues.
Yes, one of the things that we flagged out after the robust public participation that we did was Article 230 of our Constitution is very clear on the mandate of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Because in a bid to, and I can understand them, the drafters of the law wanted to attract the best in the market. And they probably thought that one of the ways of attracting the best is if we have a remuneration package for the board of directors that can be determined by the CS. But yes, it will be nice to attract the best in the market, but this is a public fund. And a public fund must be managed as per the articles of our constitution. So what we did in our amendments that I'm happy that the House, my colleague members of the National Assembly approved, was now to return back the mandate, or to make sure that the mandate of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission is included in terms of the remuneration of board members and even the CEO of the fund. So that concern by the Auditor General has been addressed in now the Infrastructure Fund Act, because all the remunerations by the board of directors, by the CEO, or anybody else who does work at the fund must be approved or must be under the directives of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. We also addressed the issue of
aligning with the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act.
Yes, PPDA Act, because again, I can understand the thinking process behind this. We want it to operate like an equity fund. We want to operate like a private sector. But the seed capital is public funds, it's public money. So in as much as we want to give them the flexibility that they would need to operate like a private equity fund, we need not forget that the seed capital is public funds. So we made sure that the law aligns them to make sure that they must follow the PPDA Act, the Public Procurement and Disposal Act.
Asset Disposal Act.
And there must be competitive bidding. They must follow all the laws. They must make sure they come to Parliament for approval. The project must be audited by the Auditor General. They must ensure that there's value for money, and all the safeguards that are provided for in not just the PPDA Act. They must follow the PPDA Act and the PFM Act, especially Section 84C of the Public Finance and Management Act.
Which says what?
Ya kwamba lazima make sure that there is value for money.
Okay. A couple of questions, and I'm just going to sample first, start with the ones that are questions or comments that have something that they're saying. Anthony Bogwa, all that Kimani is saying is logical, but at the end of the day, if monies are not audited by the Auditor General's office, then we as the taxpayers should not be asked to pay for it, which I think you've just responded to this and said that this fund shall be audited by the Auditor General, whose report shall go to Parliament, and then Parliament shall therefore look at what the Auditor General's report is saying. Still mark the one. So all of a sudden, the KK government just wakes up and becomes very clever, and they're so concerned about us investing in NIF. This after almost 5 years time of doing nothing. That's still my one. Charles, Peter Otieno, lakini Mama Mboga na Baba Boda cannot understand his deep financial explanations in English. Keep it simple. Not every mwananchi knows deeper terms and conditions. Peter, si useme tu uelewi. Why do you want to accuse somebody else? Who told you Mama Mboga does not understand? Just because they're selling Mboga does not mean that they will not understand explanation. But I think the point here is there a plan to have like a roadshow to explain to the public, we have created this new entity. All our future infrastructure going forward shall be coming from here, and this is what shall be happening. Just to go and have meetings and explain to people this is what we are doing.
Kenya pipeline imenda
hapa.
And then he pesa nena imenda hapa. And that's how we'll be using this to leverage on, get more money, build this and that and that and that, and so on and so forth. Is there a plan for that?
Ndio maana tuko hapa siku leo. Ya kwanza kueleza ya kwamba katika mipango ambayo serikali ambayo inafanya, ikiwepo ile share ambazo iliuzwa ya KPC IPO ambayo ita raise around bilioni 106, the partial divestiture of Safaricom ambayo itaweza ku raise around 242 billion shillings. Hizo pesa hazitaenda kwa kikapu cha ordinary revenue ama ile tunaita consolidated fund services. Kwa sababu hiyo do ikiingia hapo inamaanisha inaanza kulipa mishahara, inaanza kulipa loans, inaanza kulipa interest on loans, inaanza kulipa anything.
Kununua mandazi na chai.
Inaweza kununua mandazi na chai na gazeti na maua kwa ofisi za serikali. Kwa hivyo tumeweza kutengeneza sheria nyingine ambayo tunaita National Infrastructure Fund Act, ambayo inasema hizi pesa zote ambazo zinatumika, kwa sababu wakati tumeuza shares za Safaricom zimeenda, na kwa hivyo kesho hatutakuwa na hizo shares. Kwa hivyo lazima tuhakikishe kwamba hizo do zimeenda kufanya kitu yenye watoto wetu na watu wetu tutaenda tuwaambie, wakati tulikuanga na share Safaricom tukauza, tulikuanga na KPC ilikuwa ya gava tukauza. Hiyo do inaenda kufanya nini? Ndio tumesema ya kwamba hii do inaenda kwa fund specific ya ku create national highways, irrigation programs. Na hizi projects si zile haiendi kutengeneza kabarabara kutoka Molo kwenda Elbagon. Ama kutoka sijui wapi kwenda, kutoka West kwenda Parklands, hapana. Lazima hii do iende kutengeneza national highways. Lazima hii do iende kutengeneza our airports. Iende kutengeneza irrigation schemes yenye iko national in nature. Na pia tumesema kwa sababu hatujui nani atakuwa hapo kesho, hatuwezi tu operate na trust tuseme ati hapana hii do itatumika vizuri. Tumeweka kwa sheria ya kwamba lazima hii do ikuwe audited by the office of the auditor general. So, number 2, the CEO, by the one of the things that we also made an amendment to was make the CEO the administrator of the fund. So, CEO ambaye sasa ndiye administrator fund lazima produce financial statement kila mwaka. Na hizo financial statement lazima zipelekwe kwa auditor general na pia lazima zikuje katika bunge. Number 3, kabla wa make hizi investment policy wasema wanataka kujenga Rironi Summit ama wanataka Mombasa road, whatever wanajaribu kujenga lazima ikuje approviwe na bunge. Na ndio approviwe na bunge before ijengwe, lazima itaenda kwa public participation. So hizi safeguards zote ambazo tumesema lazima ikue tutumie Public Procurement and Disposal Act ya kwamba lazima ikue competitive. Sio kufikiria kesho tuseme okay fine tunajenga highway, nani atajenga? Hapana, because relative ni bishta yangu, hapana. Lazima ifollow sheria za public procurement. Na number 2, lazima ifuate sheria zetu za PFM. PFM is Public Finance Management Act, specifically section 84 ambayo inaongea kuhusu preparation of financial statements na kuhakikisha kwamba kuna public involvement na hii do lazima ikue audited. And nirudie hapo, lazima ikue audited by the auditor general ndio to make sure hii do inatumika venye inafaa. Kwa sababu ni do yetu.
We shall organize a baraza, right, where we have just a public engagement on this, talking about what kind of projects would this be, how would this fund work, what sense does it make, for you and others then to explain and for you to field questions as well from the public. But thank you for joining us today.
Asante.
Kuria Kimani, MP Molo, Chair of Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly, has been our guest. In the next hour, mathematics. Saturday is International Day of Mathematics. Yeah. Kuria Kimani is a maths guy. So is Mariam Bishar.
Inshallah.
Mariam ni mtu wa
It's 9 a.m. Good morning.
Good morning.